Moving to the other side of the world is tough. We know this from our own experience of moving to Australia during a global pandemic. To help you decide whether a life down under is for you, this series aims to share with you the highs and the lows of the migration journey, hoping to help and inspire you to make the move yourself. If you're already thinking about moving to Australia, or you're not sure where to start, then this episode is sponsored by True Blue Migration Services. Speak to them today and mention us, and you will get a free visa assessment where they'll be able to tell you all of your options for moving to this beautiful country. Speak to them now on their website at truebluemigration.com. I spoke to Sam, who off the back of his successful YouTube channel managed to make the move to Australia on a temporary sponsored visa. To make things even more difficult, Sam even had to balance the decision of what to do with a successful business in the UK, and would it be worth risking it all just to move to Australia. Is life golden for them now in Australia? I guess we'll find out. G'day Sam, how's it going?
Yeah, all good this end, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, no, really good. It has been a weirdly, mildly sweaty day in the middle of winter in Queensland. But you're also in Queensland as well, so you're probably feeling it.
Yeah, it's starting to feel less like chilly mornings, and yeah, it's getting a little bit nicer now, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it's still chilly in the mornings. I don't know how I've got to get up to walk the dog, so he's still pretty cold.
I like to stay in bed in the mornings. I'm up.
Ironically, so does the dog. He doesn't want to get up, so sometimes I have to kind of drag him out. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Sam.
My name's Sam. I've moved to Australia 9 months ago. I'm a motorcycle technician, and I also have a YouTube channel where I build custom motorcycles.
Awesome. What kind of motorcycles do you focus on?
Anything really. Probably the funniest situation is a lot of my channel is built around building Harley Davidsons with my dad and my brother, and I don't actually like Harley Davidsons. And when I first moved to Australia, I worked at a Harley Davidson dealership for a little bit. So that's probably the strangest scenario. I like pretty much anything, mainly motorcycle racing. But yeah, the channels are built around Harley Davidsons. I'm not actually that much of a fan of them.
Don't tell the people that watch it. They'll start to lose a bit of faith.
They know. If you watch any of the videos, I make it very clear. It is turned into a bit of a joke, actually.
From the motorbike perspective, I mean, I know that when I first moved to Australia, that motorcycling, how do you kind of call it? That's, I think, is much more of a bigger thing here than it was in the UK. I guess it's got something to do with kind of it being less populated, and it just seems to be you're more able to go out and do things on motorbikes. I mean, one of my neighbours, I think he must have it's at least a 600. It might even be an 800. And yeah, just to take it out, going around the back, I don't want to say woods, but like the back trails. No, it's not even trails. He's definitely on a road just to go out for an hour or two. He says to me sometimes, like, I don't see anyone. Definitely doesn't want to see the police at the kind of speeds that he's going at. But motorcycling seems to be a bigger thing here. And in particular, things like dirt bike racing. Like, I swear, half the kids I teach, I mean, it might suggest how bogan they are. They're not really bogan. If any of them are listening to this, please don't listen to this. Loads of them do motorbike racing, whether it's dirt bike racing. I've had a couple that did speedway. I even had one that did speedway so well that he used to go internationally for competitions.
Wow.
I don't know how I'm going to feel when my daughters grow up and they start to say, hey, Daddy, I want to be racing motorbikes, and that kind of fear, if you like, for your kids going, how dangerous is this going to be and how much is it going to cost me? But it seems to be a much bigger thing here. How do you find it?
I think the two key things is, one, there's loads more space, and two, it is all year round. Like, the biggest thing in the UK, anything motorcycle related, is wherever you're going riding, you're probably going to be annoying people with noise. And a lot of the racetracks that I grew up on racing, they build houses around them now, and they're all restricted. They're either shut down. There's noise restrictions where, all these rules are being put in place because there's not that much room in the UK, and you've got to squeeze it all into those summer months, where as soon as you come out here, like one of the first days I went riding, we drove for like an hour and we didn't even see a house. We didn't even see another car before we got to the racetrack. And there was 7 motocross tracks in this one venue. So you could spend a week there, and, I've been there like 4 times and there's still 2 tracks I haven't ridden yet.
Wow.
And that's just one venue, and that doesn't exist in the UK. And you can go, like, we've spent all winter going riding. Like, I've never done that ever. Like, the closest I've got to riding in the winter is traveling to Spain, which, is seen as being a holiday, and it costs a lot of money to go there. But the fact that we live here is great because you can just go riding whenever you want, any time of year.
And especially, I guess, if you're having to do it in the winter in the UK, you're battling with the weather and the rain. I mean, I can't really remember the last time it rained. Actually, I can, because we went on holiday to Harvey Bay and it rained.
Okay, yeah.
It always seems to be the way. When we want to go on holiday, that we'll go somewhere, it will rain.
Yeah, and it's actually a good thing when it rains out here because it makes the tracks less dusty.
So what was your life like before you moved to Australia then?
Yeah, I used to work at the motorcycle racing, so I was a technician at the British Superbike racing. So I used to spend a lot of the summer going to those events. I specialised in building suspension for the race team, and then in my spare time and the off season, I used to build custom motorcycles at my dad's shop that's called Mint Customs. And kind of started off making videos for fun to kind of document what we were building, and then it turned out people actually started liking the videos and watching the videos, so it kind of encouraged us to make more, and it turned into a bit of a thing. So yeah,
sounds pretty much exactly the same as this channel here, really. Wow. What was the kind of the most important reasons for your move? Because it sounds like you had a pretty good life in the UK.
The biggest thing for us was we're extremely happy in our lives. I say we because me and my partner Harry, both of us grew up, and when we first met, we were in the situation where we knew we were never going to be in the UK forever, and we wanted to experience more of the world. But the key thing was we were already happy, so moving out here was just added to what we already had.
I totally agree. I think the majority of people that I think find this whole moving to the other side of the world thing successful is literally those two things. So number one, it's got to be a desire that you've had for a long time. And I don't necessarily mean moving to Australia, the desire, but like you say, I'm proud to be British, but by the same token, I can't see myself living here forever. Like, I've always wanted to move as much as possible. And then secondly, I think you have to move here and already have a reasonable element of happiness within your life. I think if you're trying to escape something from the UK, then you'll probably quickly find that living here is in its fundamental elements, it's just like anywhere else. You got to go to work. There's going to be good days with weather. There's going to be bad days with weather. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some of the frequencies of some of the bad things that you don't like about the UK are probably less. They're different, but then you just get compounded by other things. Some people come here and then they hate, particularly Queensland, they hate the weather. And that's the reason why, it's too hot, mate. That's why I moved back. You're like, really? So it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It's just different. So if you're in a happy place already, you'll find it much easier to adapt to those changes. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Like, did you find that when you first moved that there was this huge like honeymoon stage where everything was, oh wow, look at this, that's so cool. Oh, I saw a lizard in the street. Look at this photo. Like, there was for us, it was about 6 months of this honeymoon stage. Like, we started our new jobs and we were so happy that we were like, everything was going our way. We got our Queensland driving licenses and we were like, this is awesome. And then after those 6 months, this routine set in where real life takes over. You find yourself working a lot. You have hard days. You're knackered on a Friday, that normal routine. And I think people have got to be aware that if they're going to move to the other side of the world, real life will catch up with you eventually.
It's a lot easier to do nice things on the weekend, but that Monday to Friday, you still got to work and you still got to pay the bills.
And it's even more important than being in England because, for me anyway, my visa is attached to my job. And, if that is become extremely important to me, because if anything goes wrong with my job or if something goes rocky, we could be looking at moving home.
Absolutely. What visa are you on then?
The temporary skilled shortage visa is for 2 years, and it's that subclass 482, is it?
I was thinking it sounded like a 482.
Yeah, it's a 482.
So were you sponsored by your employer?
The situation was we were looking at moving to Australia, and we'd both backpacked Australia before we met each other, and we knew we loved the place. I put my CV on Seek, and I half-heartedly applied for some positions because there was quite a lot of motorcycle technician positions on there, and I see that it was on the skills shortage list as well. And then out of the blue, we got a reply saying, can we have an interview? And I was like, okay, I'll do an interview. Sat like this, like we're chatting now. He spent an hour trying to convince me that the job out here was going to be awesome and I should seriously consider it. And then we set a big master plan that was about 10 months long of saying, like, we need to save this much money. We need to pay for the visas. We need to do this. We need to do that. I signed the contract for the job. And then, 10 months after that first interview, we landed in Australia.
Awesome. I often get asked by people that are looking for jobs, or their way in is to, like a 482, that's their way into Australia, and then eventually then going for permanent residency after that. I never really thought about it just as easy as, mate, just put your resume up on Seek and just apply for a few jobs and see what happens. Especially as a teacher, that's one of the things that I was doing in our build up to moving. And I think maybe I got knocked back because of COVID, and people were not employing people outside of the country for obvious reasons. Like, borders are shutting. It's going to become harder and harder. So I've never really advised that to people as a way of, hey, if you genuinely want to come here and you don't have an immediate access to permanent residency, you have to fill a temporary skilled shortage role for a few years, mate, just graft. Just put your CV up on Seek, be flexible with where you want to move, because let's face it, you have to fill the gap, and the gap is wherever the gap is, and just graft and interview like anyone else that wants to kind of move here. I don't know, I've got a small child that's just come out of the bath. Just do it. Just do that and see what happens. And it's great to hear someone that's done that. Like, it's fantastic. That's how it should be. You kind of think sometimes moving to another country. Yeah, no, genuinely, like, it's great to hear people that I found my job on the internet like a normal person would, and I applied for it and they wanted me. And also refreshing to hear that it sounds like the guy spent more time convincing you to come than you actually convincing him that you were worth doing the job.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those situations where the company I'm working for is expanding rapidly. They own like 40 dealerships across Australia, and the biggest shortage is a lot of young people aren't going into the industry, so the apprenticeship roles aren't being filled, and then as the years go on, there's no new technicians, so they're seeking new technicians from elsewhere. Like any CV, you make yourself sound as best as you can whilst trying not to lie. And he saw my CV and was just like, whoa, dude, you've got so much experience, you build custom bikes, you go to the racing and you develop bikes and stuff, and we want you over here.
Fantastic.
So yeah, we made it our mission to make it happen.
I say it to the kids that I teach as well. Like, a lot of them, not necessarily motorbike technicians, but definitely they work in the auto industry on various different types of cars, heavy diesel. I think if you're just a young person in Australia at the moment and you're looking to do one of these trades, like that's your passion and what you want to do, there's so many roles available for you to be able to do it. Just because, like everywhere, it makes me wonder sometimes, what do young people want to do with their lives that they're not filling these roles?
Yeah, and I'm a massive fan of any kind of apprenticeship program, because it ticks two boxes for a youngster. One, it's not going to cost them money like uni. They're going to get paid to learn.
Yep.
And they get a qualification that's recognized anywhere. Like when I did my apprenticeship 13 years ago, it was recognized out here, and that's the reason why we got the visa. And I'm so glad I've done that apprenticeship. And when I finished my apprenticeship and was fully qualified, I didn't have any debt whatsoever.
I'm still paying off my student loan as it is. And they found me in Australia as well, so I've still got to pay it from here.
Oh man.
Oh well, I don't know whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing to do, but I didn't tell them, and then they asked, and I kind of was like, oh, I can't lie, because then that's even worse.
You got to pay it off eventually, mate.
So what's been the biggest challenge so far of your move here?
There's so many little challenges, overcoming certain paperwork, making sure everything's right. There's loads of little ones, but one that came up that was big that I wasn't expecting was, I thought the stressful bit was going to be leaving the UK, but the biggest challenge was when we arrived here. We had 2 weeks before I started my new job, and in those 2 weeks was, well, complete chaos. We thought it was going to be a holiday. We're like, we can go to the beach for the first time in ages. We've got 2 weeks in a holiday apartment. We'll rent somewhere. We'll find somewhere nice to rent. We've got to sort out our bank accounts, everything. But the biggest challenge was getting a rental property. We spent the whole 2 weeks stressed out of our minds, booking on to go view. We were doing 5 to 6 a day for the whole 2 weeks. And
wow.
We did not get a look in on any of them until the second from the last day. We queued up. There was 40 people viewing the apartment we're in right now.
Wow.
We stayed after everyone had left, and we spoke to the estate agent. She recognized our accents and was like, oh, me and my husband just come back from England. We absolutely loved it. We got into a conversation with her about, we just moved here, everything, and she took a liking to us. And when we put our application in, we got the apartment. And that was the second from the last day of us not having anywhere to live. And it was really stressful. And we thought those 2 weeks were going to be the best holiday ever.
Do you know what? You are the first person that we've had on here that has experienced some tremendous difficulties with finding a rental. For anyone listening, rental crisis in Australia is a thing, but it's not anything that I've ever met someone that's had real experience, particularly from a migration perspective, doing it. You know, you don't expect to get the first place that you go to see. I mean, you might not even be right for you, but to hear like 6 a day for 2 weeks, like the maths on that is just crazy.
We queued up at every one. There was one of the ones that we went to, there was only 6 people viewing that one, but then we found out after that it already been signed by someone.
So it was a waste of time going anyway.
It was chaos and it was really stressful. And we bought a tent because we were doing some camping and riding bikes, and we bought a tent and we had some camping chairs, and we were looking at thinking, oh, that might be my home when I start my job, because we didn't find anywhere. And we tried to plan and rent somewhere before we got here. Like, we wanted just somewhere to live. We weren't fussy, but no one would speak to us, and all of the estate agents were saying, as soon as you arrive in the country, you can come to viewings, then we'll take you seriously. So no one took us seriously while we were in the UK. What was your situation when you moved? Did you sell something in the UK and then buy when you moved here?
We were homeowners in the UK, and that was one of the big buffers, if you like, for us, because we could sell that and then live off some of the earnings, and then looking to buy as soon as possible. But we rented it first. We rented a unit on like the complexes that they have, mainly because, you know, Samantha was looking at me straight away going, it's getting warmer and I need a pool. So we were like, okay, let's see what we can find. And weirdly enough, the unit that we rented, like a 3-bedroom townhouse with a garage, it was bigger than the thing that we'd sold in the UK. So whereabouts in Australia do you live? We know you live in Queensland.
Yeah, we're based in Labrador, Gold Coast. We couldn't be that fussy, like we were saying before about my job. I could have been located anywhere in Australia because they have dealerships all over. We said it would be nice to be on the East Coast somewhere, and luckily their head office is in Brisbane and they needed technicians in the Gold Coast. And as soon as he said the Gold Coast, I was like, wow, I backpacked through Gold Coast, you know, in 2014, and it was beautiful. We loved it around there, so we're in, you know, it was totally cool with us.
What's your life like now? What are the main differences that you have living in Australia than you did in the UK?
It's a lot less stressful. That's the big one. I'm still knackered on a Friday, you know, normal life, but we just feel like there's so many more opportunities for everything. We've been doing motorcycle events that don't exist in the UK. We've been traveling about, seeing things. We spent a weekend in Byron Bay. It's absolutely beautiful, you know, all these things. And we're getting to the point now where the rest of our families back home are going, more beautiful photos, you know, like I would say, yeah, the biggest thing is just a lot less stress, and work play ratio is so much better. And it's
what were the main stresses in the UK for you? Were they work related?
Not so much. I was perfectly fine with my job situation, and, you know, salary was okay and stuff like that. But it was the stress of, I'm now 33. I don't own a property. I don't see it happening anytime soon. I can't really afford to rent. I ended up moving back to my parents through COVID because I didn't obviously want to live on your own and stuff like that. And I found it stressful just getting older, thinking, I don't think I'm going to be able to achieve any of this stuff. And unless I win the lottery tomorrow or walk into a lot of money and things, as soon as we moved out here, we're looking at prices of properties and we're thinking, wow, we could actually do it out here. And it seems a lot easier.
Is that the big plan then for the future? Buy the Aussie home?
I want a double garage. I want to buy more motorbikes.
Get a bit of property, get a shed. Have you seen the size of the sheds that they've got here?
Yeah, that would be perfect. Yeah.
So what surprised you the most about moving to Australia? Or surprised you the most about moving to the Gold Coast?
I'm not sure. I think because we spent so much time planning everything. We had the master plan, and we've been here before. You know when you're planning something big, it goes over and over in your head so many times, you think of every scenario. I don't think we've come across any like big surprises as such. Probably the fact that we've managed to master our like parents' cooking is a bit of a surprise, because there was a lot of recipes they passed over and we thought, well, there's no way we can replicate this. And surprisingly, we, you know, Yorkshire puddings and Christmas and stuff, we nailed it.
Do you go for the full like Christmas dinner at Christmas then?
This year was a little different. We did a turducken. Have you ever had one of them?
I've seen them in Aldi. Yeah. I'd never had one.
We had the butchers make us one. It was $140 and there's only 2 of us eating it. It lasted about 2 weeks of us having sandwiches. But yeah, we did a turducken.
For $140, I'd have eaten every single bit.
Oh, mate, it was awesome. Yeah, you would have loved it.
What did you change and make a bit more Aussie-like for your Christmas then?
Well, we sat on the beach. We were drinking Bucks Fizz on the beach with Christmas hats on, like you do.
Yeah.
Sending videos to the family.
While they're
That
still
was quite
asleep.
funny. Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Mate, $140 on a Turducken, and don't tell Sam she'll want one now. If there were no major surprises, do you have any regrets about the move instead?
Nah, like regrets, none. Like maybe there might be in the future. Like one of the things I wanted to ask you, because you've been out here longer than us, is there anything that's built up over time that's become harder for you, like missing family, or have you started to regret anything that's in the future? Because we feel like we've just come out of that honeymoon stage. We're still absolutely loving life.
So one of the bigger challenges that I'm finding at the moment, and I guess depending on when this podcast goes out, it will get closer to it, is deciding when we're going to go back to the UK. So our big plan at the moment is that Sam's going to go back just before Christmas with the girls in term time, and I'm not going to go. So she's going back for 6 weeks, mainly because the price difference, if I wanted to go back over the Christmas break, it would be 3 times as much.
Wow.
And yeah, not that it makes it unaffordable, but it's like it's a crazy price difference to kind of think, hang on a minute, if I want to go, that's how much it's going to be. Now, I think for Sam, I mean, I was the main driving force moving over here anyway. So for Sam, obviously wanting to go back, that kind of drive and want is a little bit stronger with her. Not the sense that she wants to, I don't think, go and live back there, but she wants to show off the girls. Like she wants to be able to see friends and family and show off our kids because she's really, really proud of them. And we're both really, really proud of them. And I get that. And we'd also talked about it in the sense of, is there ever going to be a time where only one of us goes back? And how would the other one feel about it? Now, I don't think there would ever be a place where I'd go back and not leave Sam, mainly because, it's my problem, if you like, that I'm always limited by traveling in term, well, not in term time. And considering when we were going to move out here in the first place, the big plan was I was going to move here on my own and she was going to stay back in the UK with Aurora. I was going to set everything up and sort a house out and things on my own so that they could pretty much come in, or I'd go back and get them even, and everything would be ready. But then, COVID ruined that and we had to all come as a one-up. We'd already talked about it anyway, like what's going to happen if, we're split up as a result of it. I said to her, I was like, look, Aurora goes to school next year. So this is the only chance now whereby you're going to be able to do this on your own, because after that, we've got a kid in the schooling system and we're not going to be able to take her out for big significant periods of time. So I said, look, I'm not paying $12,500 just so that I can go to the UK. I mean, I'd love to see everyone there, but I just can't justify that much money. But for $4,000 and you go with the girls, if that's what you want to do, then and you be able to enjoy it and you do what you want to do. And it's also worked out. Actually, it's not going to be cheaper because she then said to me, well, can you do the kitchen? So
you got to do the kitchen while she's gone.
I fucking got stitched up there, haven't I?
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Definitely not going to be a holiday for me anymore.
I worked with a guy that moved to Australia 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And he's about 10 years old. He's like 41, I think now, but he moved here 20 years ago. He said over the years, he found that instead of going back to the UK, they were helping their family come and visit them. They did it in every 6 months or something. A different family member or a couple would come and live with them. And they found that going home to the UK and sitting on people's sofas was great to see them and everything. But if they come here, they can have a holiday and we can do things. And, there's a lot more going on. And they'd even help with flights and stuff to get their family members out here. And they found that way around was a lot better.
Yeah, it's not a holiday, us going back to the UK. At all. It's a holiday in the sense that we get to see people, but actually the things that we're doing, mucking around in the same old houses, kitchens, sofas. The ironic thing, everyone that I've spoken to, that I was sitting next to a guy actually, he was from Yorkshire while we were watching a Broncos game, and he said, I'm going back to the UK in a couple of weeks. And he said, the irony of it is I'm going back for, I think, 4 weeks, but I'm spending 6 days in the UK. Like he was going back, but he wasn't going back. He'd go back to Europe, not to go back to the UK. How sad is that? If you could do it all again then, is there anything that you'd change?
I think we needed to give ourselves more time when we first arrived here. Like we did not have enough time to get everything done we needed to in this country before we started our jobs. So if I was going to do it all again, I would give myself a lot more time for each stage. But apart from that, I think we pretty much nailed it. Everything else seemed to go quite smoothly.
How long do you think you would have needed?
At least a month, I think. I don't know how long you had before you started your job, but I feel like if we had a month here, we could have not only got everything done that we needed to, we could have had a little bit of chill time. You know how stressful it is doing the big move.
Yeah.
And also we had a cube that was coming over, and that wasn't going to be for 3 months. So I actually started my job with no tools,
Oh,
which
no.
sounds ridiculous. I bought a toolbox here because I sold my one in the UK, but I had all of my loose tools coming over in the queue. So I was not borrowing stuff of other techs, but buying stuff that I didn't need to do my job. And now I have two of everything because the cube arrived. So if I gave myself a lot more time, you know, and organized things and had more time, that would have been the big one.
Perhaps, I mean, I don't know how heavy they are, but perhaps like a send-my bag in the short term might have been a bit, you know, these are the essential things that we got to send. And I think they only take about a week at the most because they send them, they're kind of like as air freight, if you like.
Yeah, looking back, yeah, I should have done that. I know I brought my I brought all my battery stuff in hand luggage because they couldn't be crated.
Yeah.
So I had all my drills and all of like quite expensive tools, but you know, it's all the stuff you take for granted you need as a mechanic that I didn't have to start with. So yeah, it would be nice to have more time.
Well, at least buying it over here as a tradie, you can claim it back on your tax. So
Just done that. Yeah, I'm waiting on some money to come back, which is great. I love how weird they do that.
Yeah, how weird is that? The fact that we can live in a country and claim stuff back, and like,
yeah.
I don't think I tell you what, the only time HMRC ever gave me money back was when I stopped working to be a teacher, and obviously that starts in the September, so it was halfway through the financial year, and I hadn't completed the year because as when we started teacher training, we didn't earn anything, just ended up racking up my student loan. When I then started teaching, I was like, oh, I've got a nice little tax back. That was the only time in my life I've ever done it.
Yeah, and it's a great time of year for the motorcycle industry because people get, you know, say a few grand back, and the first thing they do is that's extra money they weren't necessarily expecting. Let's go buy some toys, and it normally is motorcycle related. You know, you could buy a pretty decent motorcycle for most tax returns. So it's a great time of year for our industry.
If you could do it all over again, what would you change?
I don't think we'd change anything. It's been awesome and life-changing. Like looking back at what we've achieved so far, I think we've absolutely nailed it, and I wouldn't change anything. I think it's been absolutely awesome.
Just giving yourself a little bit more time between your work. I think in response to that question that you asked, I don't think I kind of skirted around it. We had like 3 weeks because we were in quarantine for 2 weeks and we're stuck in a hotel room and there's nothing we could do. That's where we could do a lot of the life admin anyway. And then we had a week out of quarantine trying to find somewhere to live just before I started work. And I think it was the last day where we kind of were able to sit down and be like, give yourself at least a month to, you know, sort all out the life admin and be able to give yourself a little bit of a chance to relax and enjoy the fact that you've just moved to the other side of the world. Obviously, if you can give yourself longer, then that's great. But I guess it's just down to everyone's financial situation, really, isn't it? What advice do you have for people wanting to make the move themselves?
We touched on it earlier. I would say before you move or consider moving anywhere, you need to be happy in what the situation you're in. You need to be happy with yourself, and you need to be semi-happy with your life, because if you're trying to escape something or escape any kind of sadness or depression or stress or anything that, you know, is related to you that you can control, you're going to bring it with you out here, and life isn't going to be as awesome. I think you need to get to the situation where everything's cool in your life and then you make the transition, because a lot of the problems will follow you out here.
No, that's awesome advice. I think
I've seen it a lot with a lot of English guys that came into the industry as motorcycle technicians and they moved back home after 6 months because they haven't got their lives sorted out before they moved here. You know, they're going home for silly reasons because they're still miserable, and they're living in paradise, but they're miserable, and it's because they moved out here miserable. And I think the one thing me and Harry, my girlfriend, said to each other was, we need to get everything sorted here. We need to be happy with ourselves. We need to have a really solid situation, and then we make the move and we bring that with us rather than any bad vibes, if you like.
I mean, I'm probably guilty of it as well, in the sense of painting this rosy picture about how living in Australia is a great thing. And it is, you know, but that's the point. You need to be happy within yourself, know what it is that you're getting yourself into, and don't shy away from any of the negativity. You don't necessarily have to like it, but you have to embrace it and deal with it for what it is. Because if you're trying to hide it because that's what you've always done, it's never going to go away. Moving to the other side of the way isn't going to hide all of these things that you're trying to hide away. It's still there. It's just a bit drier and sunnier and hotter. Right, this is going to be a bit of a weird one because Sam, you've actually got some questions for me and you've been dotting them in, but go on, fire away. What are your burning questions for someone who has made the move with a little bit more experience? I say that, I'm not any wiser. I've just been here for longer.
Do you feel like you've taken any step backs in life since moving? Because I was in a situation where I was self-employed, like contracted to work at the racing, and I had my side hustle, which was building custom motorcycles. And in my warped motorcycle brain, the world that I live in, I saw going back and working on a salary at a dealership as kind of a step back in my career, even though I was moving to the country that I wanted to live in. Did you have any big moments where you were making the move and sacrificing or taking steps back?
Sure. Even if you look at it from the perspective of career-wise, like that's a step back because I was a head of department in the UK. I was kind of middle leadership within schools, and now I'm just a teacher. Last year, I went back up again, so I was a head of senior schooling, so in that kind of middle senior leadership role again, and that was the proof to me that, do you know what? That's not why I moved here. I didn't move here to chase the career. Some people, that's what they want to do, and that's great. But actually, I know that I have gone backwards in parts of my life because what I'm actually chasing is the lifestyle. So for me, it's not important to progress titles or job status. Actually, this whole process for me has been more of a, how can I simplify my life so that I can enjoy it more? And then you compound that by the fact that I can't even really compare my life now in Australia to the UK because I've got 2 young kids and I didn't have 2 young kids before I moved here. I kind of just about had one. So that whole lifestyle of going out and partying and drinking and being young and carefree, well, we don't have that anymore because we're knackered by the time it gets to 7 o'clock and we've both put them to bed and all we want to do is maybe watch a bit of Netflix and go to bed ourselves. So it's a completely different lifestyle. And I think that's a good thing. Like, that's helped us because it has leveled us out. I think if we were still trying to compare what our lives were like because we just literally moved from the UK, we'd been living one kind of lifestyle and then having this big lifestyle changes with kids and oh my God, like there's no support structures, blah, blah, blah. That could have been a big problem for us. It's like we started to taper our lives down as we moved to Australia, which allowed making that transition a little bit more manageable. And then now, like, for anyone that has 2 young kids, like, it's just a grind, man. They're just perpetually pissing me off because that's what they do, and I love it. Like, they're just living their lives. Like, thankfully, I haven't got the whys yet from Aurora. Normally, one why is good enough. And maybe it's my ability to explain things. I can just cut it off as that's it. That's the reason. Oh, okay. Sweet.
So technically, do you have one child that is a UK citizen and one child that first generation Aussie?
Yeah, no, that's a good question as well, because we're in the process of trying to get... we're trying to get the passport sorted for Sierra so that she can go. At the moment, she's got a flight booked, but she's got no passport. So technically, if we can't get the flight in time for them going, I'm going to be left with one kid. Because obviously we're British, she is entitled to British citizenship. So we've applied, we've sent everything off for that. And I'll make a video for that again soon. But all we need to do, you're essentially applying for a UK passport offshore, and you need to provide their birth certificate. And I've sent off my birth certificate and all my passport numbers and details and stuff like that. And in theory, I've not been asked for anything additional yet, but I guess in theory, that should be enough for them to realise, yep, she's British, born to British parents. There's all the proof. And I think the current processing time is 10 weeks. In 10 weeks, we should get a UK passport sent to us. Right. But because she is also Australian born to 2 permanent residents, I think it might even count if one of you is a permanent resident. Obviously, if we were Australian citizens, it would automatically be granted, but she is entitled to Australian citizenship. Weirdly enough, we only got one birth certificate for her. I'm now in the process of applying for the second one, so that I can also then apply for the Australian passport. which has a processing time of 6 weeks. So I reckon some point this week I'll receive a second birth certificate, and then I'll go to it's weird, everything I did for the UK one was online, and then for Australia I'm going to go down the passport office. No, not the passport office. I'm going to go down the post office. It's a bit like the old fashioned in the UK. You used to pay someone to do it all for you. You do the same thing. You book an appointment, they take all the photos, fill in all the forms for you, and then send it off. And it's not a very well documented thing about permanent residence and then having a kid here, that they're entitled to citizenship. It's a very nuanced thing. You even go on the government websites and it's like, no. I found out the information from immigration lawyers that's what they're entitled to. It's part of the deal. So yeah, Sierra will be the first Australian citizen out of all of us. We'll have to wait another year. I think, so we'll be 3 years in we'll be 3 years in September. And then ironically, she'll be a year before us as an Aussie citizen.
That is amazing. And it's, so much nicer bringing up your kids out here. Well, I don't know. I don't have any children, but I get the whole moving to Australia for that better life for the next generation thing, Children were never really on the cards for me and my girlfriend, but we move out here and we kind of see families. We think maybe that is the future, We didn't see it before, but we're starting to see it now.
Everything is geared up for kids here. Just
it is.
How safe it is. The schools, I mean, you can sit there and you can nitpick about which of the school system is better, but they're just as good as each other. They both have pros, they both have cons. The things that they can do outside of school, just even in our area, the amount of clubs, sports, societies, it's just like just go and enjoy your life, kid. And but the most important thing is you can do it all because the weather's there.
Yeah.
You just take them down the park for an hour after school and it's not pissing it down. It's not cold. They can literally run themselves ragged. You can see why so many young Australian kids are, on the whole, I think much healthier than UK ones. They're not stuck on screens. They're not playing Xbox all the time. There's kids out the back of our house and they're building a BMX or a dirt bike, not motor dirt bike, but like bike track. You can see they're building the little jumps and stuff around it.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
We had one of them climbing in the tree. Like Sam was on the trampoline with Aurora and there's this kid climbing in the tree. She's like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm just climbing a tree, mate." Like, it's great. It's great.
Yeah.
It's a bit like how our childhoods were like growing up in the UK. And then now you look at what kids are doing and they're stuck on screens or they're committing crimes. Great. I don't want that for my kids at all. I want them to have what I got in the sunshine. Thanks, Sam, for sharing your journey with us, and I hope it's given you all a greater insight into the moving process and what it's like living in Australia. If you want to see more of Sam's YouTube and his mint custom motorbikes, check out Parry Brothers, and I'll put a link down in the description. Or if you want to see where his dad's taken the new direction since he's left, check out the channel Tomboy a Bit, and I'll also put that down in the link as well. If you want to see more of what our life is like in Australia, then check out our YouTube channel at That Johnston Life. And if you've been inspired to make the move yourself, then remember to check out our friends True Blue Migration Services and let them tell you for free the easiest way for you to realise your dreams of living down under. Follow the hundreds of positive reviews by filling in their free eligibility assessment at www.truebluemigration.com. See you next time.